Hey guys, Kel Kellogg here. I'm coming to you to answer a viewer question, and unfortunately, and I apologize, I forgot the fella's name, but he asked me several questions. I found a few of them very interesting, and I'm going to address one of those right now, and I'll address some of the others later on in different videos.
Think lead core line's obsolete? Well, think again. Look at those big, beautiful rainbows. I got these fish while trolling 15 to 20 feet deep, and I didn't use a downrigger. If you don't want the expense or hassle of using a downrigger, pick up one of my yellow lead core rods in the Fish Hunt Shoot Production store and get ready to yell, "Fish on." Just like that, baby.
But he asked me if he should worry about using super glue on his lures, and I think specifically he was talking about taking something like a plastic grub or a plastic worm, adding super glue to it to fix a damaged bait. And I've done that. If you've got a grub that's ripped in half and you want to keep on using it, apply a little super glue. It'll glue it right back together. Not as good as new, but definitely serviceable, and you're able to fish with it. Other ways that I use super glue in my presentations is sometimes I'll use it on a knot, like when I'm making my lead core rigs. I'll apply a little super glue to the knot. And also when I'm putting a soft plastic, whether it's a plastic swim bait or a grub or whatever, on a jig head, and I really want it to stay in place, or even if you're putting it on like a slow death hook and you really want that grub to stay in place, put the grub, almost into position, and then add a little super glue to the back of the jig head and the shank of the hook, or if you're using a slow death hook, just to the shank of the hook. Shove that hook into place, give it a few seconds to dry, and voila, man, your bait is going to stay in place. It's going to be harder for the fish to pull it off. It's going to be harder for the fish to damage it. Now, that doesn't work so well with gulp, but with traditional soft plastics, it works really well. But the question was, will that scent put the fish off? And I think, that's a complicated question. First of all, let's consider human beings, okay? If we walk into a room where someone's using super glue, or maybe even a room that was painted recently, we're going to pick up that smell and we're going to be able to say, well, it was painted or someone's using glue. We're doing that because little molecules are getting airborne. They're going into our nose, they're getting in our nasal passages, and that information is being, passed on to our brain. It's far more complicated than I can understand, but that's the very layman's, entry level idea of how scent works. Lucy's down here. Lucy has a stronger sense of smell than me because she has more nasal passages. She has more, square millimeters of scent absorbing tissue. Therefore, she is able to smell better than me. And if you've ever watched a dog, she's a Labrador Retriever or a deer or whatever, you'll notice that they keep licking their nose. Water, or in that case saliva, water-based, it has an effect. If the animal's nose is wet, the scent adheres to it better and they can smell better. Okay, it's easier to sneak up on a deer in very dry conditions than in wet conditions, because if their nose is dry, they can't smell as well. So translating this to fish, I have been told by some very reliable sources, scientists, that fish cannot smell oil. So oil-based scents, they can't smell them. If the scent isn't water soluble, they can't absorb it into their system and their brain can't register it. You could say that paint that you smell is air soluble. We live in an air environment and we're smelling those molecules. The scientists tell me that oil molecules do not break down in water, and they can't be smelled by fish. They can't be smelled by trout or salmon. I take them on face value. They know more about it than me. The other thing about scents is there's a factor there of there's something going on that you can't know, because strikes are random. Did you just get that strike because your lure was in the right place at the right time? Did you get that scent because you had applied fish scent to your lure? Or did you not get a strike because the fish smelled the crazy glue on your knots? How would you know? The other thing to consider is the temperament of the fish. Let's assume that you've repaired a grub with crazy glue. Excuse me, crazy glue. Let's assume that. Now, if the fish can detect that scent, and they don't like it, they find it repels them to some degree. If the fish are hot, if the fish are fired up and they're chasing bait and they see your grub going through the zone, they're pretty likely to hit it regardless of the scent, because man, it's a reaction strike, right? But if the fish are kind of off and you're really having to coax every strike out of them, that's a time that you don't want a negative scent, attached to your bait. And that would be the time that you want to use scent on a lure. And I'm going to follow this up with a video about adding scent to trout lures. A while back, I did a video where I said, I don't use scent on my trolling lures. And that created some ruffled feathers out there and a lot of talk. And I've got some very specific thoughts about that, and I'm going to share them with you guys. And I think it'll be a little eye-opening, and it's definitely going to give you some approaches to think about when you're out in the field, when you're out fishing. So in a nutshell, I don't know if fish can smell things like crazy glue. I don't know if they can smell the paint on our lures or the plastic on our lures. I don't know. I think the hotter the fish are, the less it matters. The more shut down the fish are, the more it matters. But all things considered, I think there's a lot of factors that are more important than that. Would I spray my bait with deep woods off? I'm told that DEET repels fish just like it does bugs. No, I wouldn't do that. But I think, a solid presentation, kind of matching what the fish are feeding on, taking the fish's temperature, knowing what their temperament is, those are all more important factors than adding scent or reducing negative scents or stuff like that. So the short answer is, I don't know, but I think there's a lot of factors at play there. I think there's a lot to think about. And I think the temperament of the fish plays a very important part in the equation of whether you get hit or whether a telltale scent puts the fish off the bite. Anyway, that's my perspective. I wish I had a more concrete answer than that. Look for my scent and trout lure video upcoming. And if you're looking for gear, get on over to fishhuntshoot.com. A fantastic fall season is about to kick off, and we've got everything you need for success. We've got awesome lures at very fair prices and rods too. So anyway, I'm Kel Kellogg. I hope that gives you something to think about next time you're out fishing, and I'm going to get back to hiking. I will catch you later. Have a great day, guys.